When freedom felt normal, back in the 1960s, life had fewer rules and a whole lot more wiggle room. We didn't think of it as breaking the law, because it wasn't. From riding in truck beds to lighting fireworks that could take off your hand, it was just part of growing up. No helmets, no warnings, no fuss. But over the decades, what once felt ordinary slowly became outlawed. Let's look back at 13 things we all did without a second thought. Things that today, you'd need a lawyer just to explain. Number 1, drinking at 18. In the 1960s, turning 18 didn't just mean adulthood. It meant you could grab a beer without anyone batting an eye. High school seniors would head to the local tavern after class, order a drink, and toast to growing up. In some states, the drinking age was even lower for beer and wine. Nobody asked for IDs if you looked the part. Parents didn't panic, and bartenders didn't worry. It wasn't until the 1980s, when the federal government tied highway funds to the drinking age, that things changed. But back then, a beer at 18 wasn't illegal, it was tradition. Number 2, bringing guns to school. Hard to imagine now, but in the 1960s, a rifle in the school parking lot didn't raise alarms. It just meant hunting season was in. In rural towns, teens drove to school with shotguns in the back window, ready to hit the woods right after the final bell. Some schools even had rifle clubs, where students practiced marksmanship under a teacher's guidance. It wasn't a threat. It was a hobby. Teachers didn't flinch, and no one called the cops. It was a different time, when gun ownership was part of life, not a cause for lockdown. Number 3, playing in pesticide fog. On warm summer evenings, the sound of the mosquito truck was like a siren song for neighborhood kids. As it rolled down the street, spraying thick clouds of DDT, we didn't run away. We chased it. On bikes, barefoot, laughing through the haze. The fog smelled sharp and chemical, but nobody warned us to stay clear. Parents waved from porches and no one thought twice. It wasn't until years later that scientists linked DDT to serious health risks. But back in the 60s, that pesticide cloud was just part of a perfect summer night. Number 4, fireworks like dynamite. Fireworks in the 1960s weren't just loud, they were borderline explosives. Cherry bombs, M80s, silver salutes. They packed enough punch to blow apart mailboxes or rattle windows. Kids lit them off without adult supervision, racing to get away before the bang. Some even tossed them into ponds to go fishing. We knew they were dangerous. Parents warned us, fingers were lost. But that just added to the thrill. Eventually, the government cracked down and banned the big stuff. But if you lit one back then, you remember the boom, and maybe the ringing in your ears. Number 5, toys that made you dizzy. In the 60s, getting dizzy was half the fun. Playgrounds had metal merry-go-rounds that spun so fast, kids flew off like rag dolls. At home, we had sit-and spins and backyard twirlers that left us wobbling across the lawn, laughing the whole way. There were no helmets, no soft landings, just hard dirt and tougher kids. We didn't call it dangerous. We called it playtime. Sure, you might lose your balance or your lunch, but those spinning toys gave us a kind of joy you can't buy in a padded plastic playground today. Number 6, drinking while driving. Believe it or not, there was a time when sipping a beer behind the wheel wasn't all that unusual. In the 1960s, open container laws were either loose or non-existent in many states. Some folks kept a cooler riding shotgun, cracking one open on long drives or Sunday cruises. Drive-through liquor stores were common, and unless you were clearly drunk or swerving, most cops didn't bother pulling you over. It wasn't considered reckless. It was just how things were. The laws eventually caught up, but for a while, drinking and driving meant doing both at the same time. Number 7, riding in pickup truck beds. If you grew up in the 1960s, chances are you felt the wind in your face riding in the back of a pickup. After ball games, family picnics, or just a trip into town, the truck bed was the best seat in the house. No seat belts, no roll bars, just open sky and the rumble of the road beneath you. Kids waved to passing cars and shouted over the wind, holding on tight around the curves. Today, most states ban it for safety reasons. But back then, it was freedom on 4 wheels, and we loved every second of it. Number 8, chemistry sets with uranium. Back in the 60s, chemistry sets weren't just educational, they were downright dangerous. Kids could mix real chemicals that fizzed, smoked, and sometimes exploded right on the bedroom desk. Some sets even came with small samples of uranium ore in a Geiger counter, just for fun. Mercury was another favorite. Rolling those shiny beads around in your hand felt like magic. Parents saw it as science, not risk. There were no safety goggles, no warning labels, just curiosity and courage. Today, those kits would be illegal to sell, but for young minds back then, danger was just part of discovery. Number 9, realistic toy guns. In the 1960s, toy guns looked and sounded a lot like the real thing. Cap guns snapped with loud pops and let off a puff of smoke, while toy rifles came in wood grain with working triggers. Kids played cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians in the street. No orange tips, no bright colors, just pure imagination. No one panicked when a kid pointed a plastic Colt 45 at his buddy. It was all part of the game. Today, those toys are heavily regulated or banned, but back then, a toy gun wasn't a threat. It was just Saturday afternoon. Number 10, cribs that killed babies. For decades, drop-side cribs were a staple in American homes. With one side that slid down, they made it easier for parents to pick up a sleeping baby without waking them. But what seemed convenient turned out to be deadly. The sliding rails could detach or create gaps, trapping tiny heads or limbs. At the time, no one questioned the design. It was in every nursery, hospital, and daycare. It took dozens of tragic accidents and years of recalls before the government finally banned them in 2011. Looking back, it's hard to believe we trusted them for so long. Number 11, kids watching unrated movies. Before movie ratings became the law of the land, kids watched whatever was playing, and sometimes it was pretty wild. In the late 60s, films were pushing boundaries with violence, language, and adult themes. Without a clear rating system, it was up to theater owners, or nobody at all, to decide who could buy a ticket. Movies like Bonnie and Clyde or Rosemary's Baby were seen by wide-eyed youngsters who had no idea what they were walking into. Parents didn't know, and no one checked IDs. Back then, the silver screen didn't hold back, and neither did we. Number 12, glass soda bottles that shattered. There was nothing like popping the cap off an ice-cold soda from a glass bottle. Those thick, heavy bottles felt sturdy, but they weren't always safe. Pull one from a jammed vending machine too hard and it might crack or explode right in your hand. Kids collected empties to get the deposit back, often hauling around bags of glass without a second thought. Cuts and scrapes were part of the deal. Eventually, soda companies switched to plastic and aluminum, not just for safety, but because they were cheaper. Still, nothing today tastes quite like soda from a glass bottle. Number 13, burning trash in the backyard. Before weekly pickups and strict waste laws, getting rid of trash was a do-it-yourself job. Most families had a metal barrel out back where they burned newspapers, food wrappers, and just about anything else that would catch fire. The smell of burning paper was common in the air, especially on weekends. Kids tossed things in like it was a game, and no one worried much about the smoke or sparks. Over time, burn bans and pollution concerns brought an end to the backyard blaze. But for many of us, that old burn barrel was just part of keeping the yard clean. When rules were fewer and life felt bigger. The 1960s gave us freedom with fewer fences, when common sense guided more than warning signs. Some of it was risky, sure, but most of it was just life as we knew it. If you remember those days, you remember the feeling, unfiltered, unregulated, and unforgettable. Thanks for coming along on the ride.